mistaken ideologies.
But that principle philosophy changed.
Yeah. And it is believed that the military, even though the AD, Alliance for Democracy, did not really qualify to be approved as a party, the military, Abdul Salami, decided to approve it or register it for the Civil Rights June 12 group who withdrew. Can you imagine if we had in 1999 people like Gani running for the Senate, Olisa Agbakoba in the Federal House and Senate?
Much later,
the story would have been different.
Much later,
by 03, Gani ran for the presidency of Nigeria.
Exactly.
Nonsense.
Even at that time.
Nonsense. 4 years had been lost.
Why do you call it arrant nonsense?
4 years had been lost. Look, there was a vacuum in 1999.
Better late than never.
Better early than late.
No, but in spite of that, when he ran, and then how do we reconcile that in terms of, look, what do we really want? Now, he ran, his party, NCP, came up for elected positions.
Imagine that NCP. Who voted? It wasn't serious.
How many people voted?
You see, that is part of the tragedy of Nigeria. Many of us armchair critics, of which I am chief, civil society people, many of us, we just are not realistic. We are part of the problem with Nigeria. We are suffering from what I would call blue-blooded elitism. We needed to have engaged in 99, and we need to still engage. Okay, but then the momentum has been lost, totally lost. How can I run for anything now behind some of those intellectually and morally inept individuals who occupy the space?
I want to fall into the same trap because there's a future.
I will have to go and queue up behind them.
What happens to the journey of 1,000 miles and this step?
Yes, I agree with you. Everything you're saying is right, Chamberlain, you are completely right.
You know why I'm chuckling? Because, I'm chuckling because, it so totally fits with the despair and the title you find in Achebe's works, There Was a Country. Yeah. And for people who are still young, who say, there has to be one moving forward. I mean, we can't sit and fold our arms and say there was a country, that we must have something to leave to those who are being born currently as we speak, their children being born in hospitals. What hope is there? I mean, you're talking about successor, you're talking about leadership, you're talking about success without a successor being a failure. And I know that, several times, even the ex-president, former President Obasanjo, has come out to say that there are certain things he too did not know about, the people that he was putting into government. Tell us more about mentorship. What would you have been looking to see, as a process of grooming fresh leaders from amongst, the youths?
Well, mentorship. I like that word. I think that's what is missing, really. And if you take a look at the performance of Fashola in Lagos, Fashola has done better than his mentor, Tinubu, for one reason alone.
Mentor or predecessor?
His predecessor and mentor. Because he understudied, he had the opportunity to understudy Tinubu. And Tinubu is a phenomenal I'm looking for a word now, but he knows how to smell a successor, a good man. From the team around him, he picked BRF, who has done really well. To come to Enugu, where I live, Chimaroke Namani picked Chime. And when he picked Chime, the hue and cry was, how can Sullivan, aloof, introverted, disinterested, how can he be governor? He's such a good governor. I always say that because the press is based in the West, what he's doing is not sufficiently ventilated, and by his introverted nature, he doesn't go looking for publicity.
They hear about others who are also far off.
No, the point
from the West.
I'm making, if you go down to River State, Amichi's done far better than the other guy, Odili. If you go to Akwa Ibom, he's also done very, very well. So talking of mentorship, there is no question that from these few examples I have just given, that if we will take the time and groom the guys who are around us, specifically prepare them for the presidency. And I like to quote El Rufai, I believe he said it somewhere. Either I read it in the papers, or maybe it was something from his book. But El-Rufai said that the mistake Obasanjo made was that those guys who understudied him, who were closely with him, none of them emerged to succeed him. I'm probably not putting it in his exact words, but I think that was very, very incisive of him.
Did
it was
they
a clear
have
observation.
To succeed him?
Yes, absolutely.
They have.
Absolutely.
You know,
look at Russia. Yeltsin was succeeded by a small boy who had been holding his handbag, briefcase, and understudying him. No, Putin was not an issue in Russia. Vladimir Putin, he was not in the hierarchy of people who were likely successors. Yeltsin sacked so many people as prime minister. He would appoint the prime minister. He was a temperamental man. He would sack. One of the last people he appointed as prime minister was Vladimir Putin, who was down the line. But this was a boy who had been around him. And Putin has stabilized Russia because he studied the master. Obasanjo went and picked Yaradua governor.
You know, but one would think
It should have been, his successor should have come from the team of his inner circle, those people who are working closely with him. They will have carried his vision on. I'm trying to talk on mentorship, but I don't know if I have answered your question.
Yes. Well, you are, and I'm trying to, make, to bring more conflicting issues here. Because one would think that when you have experience, let's look at, the late President Yaradua, and I don't know if you've read Olusegun Adeniyi's book on power, politics, and death, and the light in which he's painted. It will seem as if, we lost a man even before, we lost a candle in the wind, so to speak. That's almost how the book is painted. It's not perfect, but, he did look like he meant the best for this country. So one would think that when you have the experience, the current president has been a deputy governor, then a governor, and then, vice president, and then president. How much more experience do you need in these areas for you to be able to hold onto the reins of leadership and do what you need to do?
I agree with you. The last example you gave is certainly very correct. Even if President Jonathan had not had the opportunity of working closely with Obasanjo, who I think historically is going to be known as the Charles de Gaulle of Nigeria. Obasanjo is going to be very well defined by history, whatever anybody says. That's what I believe. So even if Goodluck Jonathan hadn't had the opportunity of working closely with him and understanding him, he had sufficient exposure to permit me to wax spiritual. God prepared him for the presidency of Nigeria. God prepared Goodluck Jonathan. Deputy governor, like you said. Then he became a governor. Then he became VP. He became acting president. Can you imagine that, acting president? Enough time to understudy the system. Now he's the president. And that is why his administration, coming from one who comes from the South, what can you say about me, who is trying to use me? His administration, as of today, with the greatest respect, is a tragedy. President Goodluck Jonathan has not ventilated the clear evidence of the fact that he's the most prepared man to rule the country. Nobody has been as prepared as him. Why?
By way of...
And I want to wax the further spiritual. No, I'll leave that alone. Because I wanted to quote something from the Bible now. Jeroboam in the Bible, if you read the Bible, Jeroboam reminds me of the president. Jeroboam came from nowhere, and a prophet walks up to him and says to him, hey, look here, you are going to be king. And when you become king, your seed will succeed you to the very end. Just obey God and do the right things. And Jeroboam went to office as the king of Israel and failed.
Let's watch it go one more time. Perhaps so we'll let it go. Because, I mean, when you talk about the law, again, being the ground norm, how it's central to both in terms of leadership, corruption, getting the society right. This movement of people from one state to the other about the rights of citizenship, where to reside, you got a perspective on that, do you?
Yes, well, you see, talking of Fashola, I think he's caught between the devil and the deep blue sea.
How?
I think that Fashola means well. Driving through Lagos this morning, you know, I just liked some of the things I saw. And then there's also so much rubbish in Lagos. You know, Lagos is grossly overpopulated. But having said that, what he did is a breach of the Constitution. You know, what he did is part of the capitalist oppression of the poor. The Constitution gives a responsibility to the government to take care of the weak, the needy. Nobody should be discriminated against on grounds of his status or station.
Isn't that part of taking care of them?
So what?
Moving them away from where they have absolutely nothing.
Yes, to where?
Rehabilitating them and
where?
Putting them in good care in their states.
And sent to in good care of who?
It would seem
why did I leave Anambra State to Lagos in the first place if there was good care there?
Just one moment, you know, exactly. It would seem that, you know, you're laying the blame squarely at his own feet and exonerating the government of Anambra State, because according to them, they had communicated, you know, with Anambra State, and they feel that Anambra State government dropped the ball. You know, what do you say? What do you have to say about that?
I don't know the facts internally. I know I saw Peter Obi speaking to the Otu Okewu, that's the Igbo Lawyers Association in Lagos, and he said that the matter is being resolved. I don't know about whether Anambra State government did not play their part of the bargain or not.
We saw documentation
but I know,
which they had signed from
which they
Anambra
had signed,
State
I see.
through their liaison office in Lagos.
Yes.
And then they were supposed to continue discussions and negotiations, but along the line, apparently, from what we heard, Anambra State did not respond as they ought to.
I think if there was an agreement between Anambra and Lagos, agreements are sacrosanct and should have been obeyed. They should have been obeyed.
Perhaps not an agreement, so, perhaps just communication, that we have these people and we think you should come and get them. They want to go home.
Yes, if it's not an agreement, then it was unlawful for the government of Lagos State to send them away without a court order. Because I wonder, under what law did they do that? Is it deportation? Can you deport somebody within a country? Or is this some form of banishment? And before you banish a person, I think there should be a court order. On what basis did the government of Lagos State...
That's the problem.
Can they call it relocation?
If you want to relocate me, I think you need my approval and consent. If you relocate...
What if those chaps give their approval and we are not aware?
Well, why do we want to engage now in an intellectual discussion of whether they did? We don't know that they did. Did they give the approval? If they did, then this discussion is dead on arrival.
But you know how they always say
the question
is,
and if a madman gives you his approval, if somebody who is mentally ill gives you his approval, how do you know? A madman may come from Akaraiwe and says, I'm from Asaba. You know, so how do you go by the word of somebody who is perhaps not so well as some of them were not? What the government of Lagos State did, and Lagos State government receives the highest share from the Federation account on ground of population, among other reasons, and the population includes the jet SAM and flood SAM on the streets. The government of Lagos should have rehabilitated them. Look at they are Nigerians.
They did that.
Nigerians are even being looked after on the streets of London.
All right, we have to go.
Let's hear Mama. She wants to say something.
No, Sulaiman is going to have
I think we're really out of time.
But the good and important thing is that, from what you said, that the Anambra State government says, look, it's been sorted out.
Yes,
and that's the way it should be.
But it was wrong.
Sorted out.
It was wrong. Even the one Lagos State is sending people to Osun State is wrong. It's wrong. We are one nation. Make sure that the poor are looked after wherever they come from. In Nigeria, the rich are those who are being looked after. The poor are not being looked after, and we are seconds away from our own spring. It's a matter of time.
All right. Akaraiwe is the former first vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much for tolerating me again one more time.
Yes, we're tolerant. Well, let's go for the headline news. Oh, okay, no, we'll take a break now. We're back after this.